There is not now, nor has there ever been, a shortage of truck drivers in the U.S., just like there has never been a labor shortage in the U.S. Those are not things. That was a very clever piece of propaganda that's been put out by about 5 or 6 mega carriers that treat drivers like shit constantly. And they have this ridiculous turnover. The problem is with the coach, not the players on this one. And just like with this DAC report, it's always one-sided. It's always the driver was horrible, the driver abandoned this load, blah, blah, blah. What they don't say is, well, what did you do to that driver for the first, 5 months or something like that? Usually it's something to this effect. Driver says, hey, I need to be home for XYZ reason. It's really important, and so I need to be home in July. And you tell them this in May. And then you tell them again in mid-May. Then you tell them again at the beginning of June, and on and on. And the dispatcher still screws you. And so the driver says, that's it. I told you guys, I'm leaving. Well, if you leave, blah, blah, blah. See, there's a reason why I think about it. Like, the companies love to rope you into contracts. Okay. This is a good rule of thumb. It's not always 100% true. It's a good rule of thumb. Any company that wants to do business with you, whether as an employee, as a contractor, or they want to sell you a service or something like that, hey, buy our service, and they want you to start signing a contract that locks you into something, get ready, because they're going to treat you like shit. They're not going to do it. The salespeople aren't going to do any of the shit that they talked about, that they told you. This happens in the trucking industry all the time. Salespeople show up and they fill these shippers' heads with all kinds of fantasies of getting shit done for really cheap. And it's going to, like, the problem is that the salespeople that are doing this have never driven trucks. They don't know anything about the industry. They've never driven a truck. They've never worked in any of the industry. And so they don't know any of this stuff. They don't understand the logistics behind it. You have to get out from behind your desk and go out and do field research on this kind of thing. And you have to deal with you have to rely heavily on your guys that can explain all this stuff. Here's the problem with that. Most companies are getting rid of those guys now because those guys are really fucking expensive. So, yeah, so these companies keep saying, oh, there's a shortage. No, it's because what they want is cheap slaves that they can just fire and replace. That's all they care about. Their turnover is insane. Nobody, no owner-operator, true owner-operator company would want turnover like that. That is so goddamn expensive to deal with that. No, man. And owner-operators don't want to deal with that. They don't want to have to leave companies and go, dude, it's hugely stressful. It costs money to do that. It takes all kinds of time. And that's assuming you have your own base plates and insurance. I mean, imagine the guys that are using their base plates and their insurance. Like, oh my God, dude. No. That's why companies do stuff like this. They try to rope guys into lease agreements and all kinds of crazy gimmicks because they know they're going to treat them like shit. They know that it's not going to match that. So now how do you fix this? How do you have an actual labor surplus? How do you actually keep your labor? I don't know. You could try not treating people like shit. That's number one. Number two, you could probably try and pay them more. This is 100% scientifically proven. 100% scientifically proven. I have debunked it scientifically repeatedly, over and over and over and over and over. And every time they get rid of those expensive guys, right? Because the expensive guys are the competent guys. Pinned to the top of my TikTok page, you will see the competency crisis in which I break this down. This is a problem happening to lots of industries. I'm simply talking about the trucking industry because it's kind of in the news right now, and it's something I know about. But I'm just pointing out, like, this has been a problem in lots of different industries, and it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better because to break it down, the companies, all these big companies, these private equity firms that have bought up all this shit, which is really what it is. It's just private equity bought all this stuff up with fake counterfeit dollars. Okay, let's be clear. They printed dollars out of nothing. It's counterfeit dollars. They bought it all up. They paid anything for it. Now they can't figure out how to make it work. Well, of course they can't figure out how to make it work because the business model had to be long-term sustainable and you paid too much for it. No different than landlords paying $600,000 for a house that they can't rent for $1,500 a month and they go, what the hell? I deserve a profit. No, you don't deserve a profit. You do not deserve a profit. Not if you overpaid. Okay? You don't deserve to make, you can earn a profit. That's how you do it in business. You provide a better product at a better price than your competitor. Okay? But a better product at a better price than your competitor. That's the rules. And there's only so low you can go with that. And if you pay too much for the business or too much for the building, too much for everything, well, then how do you expect to provide a better product at a better price? You can only do that for so long. before eventually the math catches up with you, which is, again, I did a whole video. I think it's called The Math Catching Up with You. Whatever, like over a year ago, something like that. And like, this is what I'm pointing out. Like, this is happening in several different industries. So if you're wondering if there's ever a driver, no, there's no driver shortage. There never has been a driver shortage. There's never been a labor shortage. There are plenty of millennials, for example, that'll take all those shitty factory jobs, and they don't have to be shitty anyway, dude. I mean, like, I've seen some very nice, dude. I pull flatbed. I've seen some very, very, very nice factories that you pull into and everything. Like, dude, they don't have to be shitty factory jobs. There's a lot of really good ones out there, or could be good ones out there. But, yeah, there are plenty of guys who will take those jobs, but they're not going to do them for free. They have to be able to afford to be able to function in the world in which they live. They have to be able to participate in the economy like anybody else. It doesn't have to be better than their parents, dude, just at least on par. So, no shortage of truck drivers.